Yeah, great. So it's kind of almost becoming traditional for me to stand here and kind of give a talk about community updates. I think we started NF Core sometime around 2018, so I think I gave a talk at the 2018 Nextflow meeting about NF Core. That was my first one, and I've kind of been, I'd say, invited back, but I mean, now I work at Seqera, so I kind of have to give a talk. But, so it's fantastic, because I can track these talks year after year and really kind of use it as a benchmark, as a waypoint to see how our community is growing. And I mean, it's obvious today just by the number of people sat in front of me. It's wonderful to see, and it's a real pleasure. So this year, for the first time, I'm expanding my talk slightly beyond NF Core. I'll talk a little bit about NF Core as well, but I kind of tried to make the talk about the entire Nextflow community, of which NF Core is a major part. Just in case there's anyone in here who not sure what they signed up for. But Nextflow, of course, is this workflow manager that we're so passionate about, and NF Core, which still has the same logo, is this kind of collaboration where we all get together to build best practices, build components of pipelines, and build the pipelines themselves. So I like to start off with some hard numbers. I'm still a scientist at heart. So where are we with numbers? Let's think about it. So we have, if you look at NF Core, you look at how many people have actually pushed code to the different NF Core repositories. Anyone who did the quiz yesterday at the hackathon will know how many repositories that is. We have over 700 people who have really actually contributed code, which is a huge number. Many more people kind of follow us across social media, so the combined Nextflow and NF Core Twitter accounts. I refuse to call it X. And nearly 10,000 people on the Nextflow and NF Core Slacks. Now, I wrote this slide on Sunday, and I checked again this morning. Woo! I can officially now write that in all the grant reports and everything. 10,000 users, 10,000 people in Slack for Nextflow and NF Core, which is just mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. I remember that when we hit like 100 followers on Twitter, and I was like, well, maybe this thing could be big. Orders of magnitude later. Many people obviously drop into Slack, they solve their problem, and that's fine, but the metric which really interests me the most is how many active people, how many people we have logging in and asking questions on Slack. And you can see this lovely plot here showing this kind of the growth of our community over the years. And we're now peaking at like over 1,500 people logging into the NF Core Slack within a week there, which is just, again, phenomenal. And this particular week coincides with when we ran our free online community training back in March, which is something I'll touch on later, but has been an amazing experience. Many more people are outside of Slack, many more people using Nextflow, and if we look at the Nextflow docs, we have nearly 18,000 unique IPs hitting the website every month. So it's a huge user base, and you can see I keep thinking, surely we're going to run out of bioinformaticians soon. But we don't seem to have done that yet, so long may this continue that I can stand here and show you all these kinds of graphs with no sign of any slowdown. What do all these people do? Well, in NF Core, at the end of the day, we build pipelines, and you can see we're on track. Hopefully the next time I give this talk, we'll be well past 100 pipelines. This number is especially impressive when you think that we're very strict about only having one pipeline per data type. So this is nearly 100 different data types, which is an amazing span of breadth and depth there. Something I'm very proud of. And if you search GitHub, many more people are using the components that we share. So if you kind of search for specific text strings which turn up in the NF Core template, it's easy to find over 1,000 different pipelines out there in the wild, just on GitHub, that have been built using the NF Core template. Something that's relatively new, the last kind of couple of years with NF Core, is that we've started to go beyond just the level of pipelines. We share pipelines, which is the thing you run as an end user, but we've built all the infrastructure with DSL2 to be able to handle sub-workflows and also modules. And a module is like for us, our definition of a module is basically a process wrapper around a single tool. And now we can collaborate not just on pipelines, but also on modules. We have, 15 pipelines that all use SAM tools or FastQC. We can keep that code in one place, and more of us can collaborate on a smaller set of code. And now we have over 1,000 different module wrappers within NF Core, which is astounding, given we only just started doing this. And the uptake has been amazing. And many of you in the audience have been working with modules. We've got a modules group in the hackathon we've just had, and it goes 13 new modules were added over the past few days, so this is probably out of date already. But again, it's really inspiring. Okay, so those are the numbers. What else is kind of going on in the community? I've got here just a handful of community projects which I think are particularly interesting. I've kind of tried to group them. It's so difficult to do this because there's so much exciting stuff going on out there. But I've done my best. Something we've talked about quite a lot over the past few days is testing. And Lucas, who's here in the audience, is giving a talk tomorrow. And they've put together this amazing package, NF Test, for doing unit testing of Nextflow code, which has been something that people in the community have been kind of crying out for a long time, and they've answered that call. And this package, since it's come out, has been hugely successful, hugely popular, and we've adopted that now within NF Core. And that was the focus of the hackathon we had this week, which was to adopt NF Test throughout all of our NF Core pipelines and modules. And Maxime, in the wrap-up, hit the merge and hit the release button for Fetch NGS, which marks our first NF Core pipeline, which is entirely using NF Test for CI testing. So that's great to see. It's not just stopping there. We run automated tests both on GitHub, but also doing full-size tests with AWS and Azure. And anyone who sat in an NF Core hackathon waiting for the GitHub runners, we've been working on these AWS auto-scaling runners now, using the credits, where we can push out more CI tests, one more at a time, and also more specialized tests. So we're starting to see more and more tools using GPU, both for long-read data, also for imaging data. And now, because we have access to a wider array of machinery on AWS, we can actually run automated tests using GPU, and in the future, who knows, maybe other types of hardware as well. So that gives us better scale and more flexibility. Relatively recent feature of Nextflow, is, depending how you define recent, is the ability to have plugins for Nextflow, which extend the base functionality of Nextflow without making that code base too big and too bloated, and also allowing people to kind of experiment with the different functionality a bit. And we're starting to see this kind of ecosystem of plugins grow, and the base of developers able to do these things grow. And 3 kind of jump to mind. 2 of them have talks this week. So Julio and Sabrina will be talking about their plugins for validation and the CO2 footprint plugin. And Ben's been working on the NFPOV plugin during the hackathon. And you can really extend Nextflow functionality in a myriad of ways. So 2 special mentions also go to 2 of our sponsors of this event, Memverge and Quilt, both of whom are also hacking away at the hackathon, and they both have plugins which extend Nextflow functionality out to their different platforms. So it's a really great way to kind of, beyond the level of pipelines, to customize the way that Nextflow runs. And I'm really excited to see what else we can see as we kind of put this superpower into the hands of the community. Special mention to a topic that's close to my heart, which is the NF Core website. It's been a huge effort, like a multi-year effort really, to move the NF Core website off my personal server, which was starting to struggle due to all you guys. It's a good problem to have. And it's being completely rewritten mostly by Matthias in NF Core, so hats off. It's a massive effort. And with that, we've been able to introduce a host of much requested features, the main one being a search bar, because there's a lot of stuff on the NF Core website, and now you can find it hopefully a bit quicker. Something else, this is biased towards infrastructure because I work mostly with the infrastructure team in NF Core, so apologies for that. But something else I'm very passionate about is taking these ultra-powerful tools like Nextflow and trying to make them available to as many people as possible. I'm very excited about making tools user-friendly and easy to learn and easy to pick up. That's a big motivation behind many of the tools I've started, such as NF-Core and MultiQC. And we're kind of continuing on that track with NF-Core especially. There's been a suite of kind of improvements to the NF-Core tools package. And we're working on some really exciting things, especially around schema we've got lined up. And something that people often ask for is, I want the NF-Core template, but I want to use GitLab instead of GitHub, so I don't need all the GitHub stuff. Or I don't work with reference genomes, so I don't need igenomes. And we're working on functionality to be able to really fine-tune exactly what you build with the NF-Core template, which is especially useful for people who are building pipelines for their own needs outside of the NF-Core community. Anyone who knows me well knows that I love a bit of Python, and I love making text, terminal interfaces look nice. And so along that theme, we've been working on I'll give you a little sneak preview on something like this. This is the up-and-coming NF-Core pipelines create command, and it uses a program called Textual to build a terminal user interface, a TUI, not a GUI. And this is one of the things I'm kind of thinking we can really build this kind of experience all the way through NF-Core tooling, where it's still a command line tool, you're still running on a terminal, you can still run on your remote HPC dead easy, but you can use a mouse, you can render Markdown, we can have links, we can have toggle buttons, we can have all of this really lovely, rich interface to make it super easy for anyone just to jump in and try it out, and they don't have to really spend a long time, don't have to necessarily be kind of scared of a terminal. It's much easier to work with, and you can see by these toggle buttons and things here, there's a lot of functionality we can add and make it a lot easier to understand. You don't have to be worried about what this command line flag is going to do, because you can see a big chunk of help text without having to go off and search the documentation. So thanks to Julia for letting me show this demo. It's not quite ready for the prime time yet, but stay tuned. I hope to see many more interfaces like this coming to a terminal near you. Special note to a project my team at Seqera, the community team, has been working on hard about the last year or so, really, we've kind of picked up, which is we started a new podcast. It was kind of interesting for me, because I never really listened to a podcast before we started this. So one of the first things I had to do was start listening to podcasts to sort of see how they work. So apologies for the early ones, which were probably a bit scrappy. I feel like we're hitting our stride now. So for any of you who likes to listen to a nice kind of relaxed chat, it's a bit like a fireside chat type thing, we push an episode out every couple of weeks now across all the usual podcast platforms. We have a few different formats. We have kind of some really deep technical dives. I've spent a lot of time talking to Ben, one of the Nextflow developers, about the internals of Nextflow, chatting to Paolo about Wave recently, all kinds of good topics on there. So if you've got a long drive, you're welcome to tune in, and please tell us what you think. And some of you at the hackathon may have seen us sat outside with a camera at times, so might some fresh content coming soon, hopefully. Okay, how am I doing on time? Can't actually remember when I meant to finish. Am I doing okay? Yeah, okay, I've got loads of time. I'll finish up with a few kind of new things that we're doing. So far, I've mostly kind of talked about what you guys have been doing, and now I kind of changed tack slightly and talk about some of the initiatives that we're going to bring out for you guys in the coming kind of days and weeks. And in fact, if you really pay attention to the Nextflow blog, minutes. First up, I'd like to talk about a new program we're launching called the Nextflow Ambassadors. The Ambassador program is basically a new initiative to kind of recognize people in the community who are really going the extra mile, who are really advocating for Nextflow and for NF-Core and for our projects in the community, and really try to do our best to foster that collaboration, the knowledge sharing and the growth that comes from these kind of grassroots efforts. In short, we kind of we want to help people by helping people to do the things they're already doing, basically. By becoming a Nextflow ambassador, people can help to shape and to grow the Nextflow and NF Core communities, by which I mean we kind of will be asking you what we should do. So you kind of get a direct line onto the internals of these projects. We're very interested in helping anyone who runs training, especially. There's more of you who want training than there is of us who can directly run training sessions ourselves. And so the best way to kind of get the word out about Nextflow is to help people help other people. And so we've run, I don't know how many training sessions for last year, we run an awful lot, and they slowly get better over time. We learn a lot about what works, about what doesn't, about how different formats work, whether you have an afternoon or a week. And we want to build out like a training library full of slides and full of recommendations and help that we can share with people in the community. We're going to open up a special Seqera travel fund for ambassadors. So if you'd like to go to a conference to give a presentation about Nextflow or about a project you've got which involves Nextflow, you can hopefully get support from us for that. And of course, everyone loves a sticker and some swag. So there's some recognition for that, hopefully. You get a fancy t-shirt. A few of you have received those the past few days, and some special stickers and some other nice things. So that's kind of the overview of what we want to kind of give back to the community for the ambassadors. And the kind of things we're looking for are, like I say, things which are already happening. It's nothing new. It's like we're looking for people who are kind of engaged with the local community, who are working, who may be visible on Slack or visible in their local institutions, people who are talking about Nextflow and NF Core and running events, user groups, hackathons, workshops, and kind of writing content. We have invited a first round of ambassadors in the weeks before this event, and if you go to the Nextflow website, you can find a page which lists all of our ambassadors. You'll probably recognize some familiar faces there because we basically have recruited all the people who are already visible in the community and already doing lots. But we're very open to kind of opening this up to anyone who's interested. And some of the things this was really driven from the ground up. This program was initiated because we saw people doing things like Priyanka, for example, at the Wellcome Trust Sanger Institute, running a series of Nextflow-related user group meetings, giving training, all these things which are kind of happening in the community, and it's fantastic. And so we really want to kind of celebrate that and try and encourage that. So if you're interested, this should be live. I think we merged it like half an hour ago, so hopefully the website build ran. If you're interested, go to the Nextflow website, /ambassadors, and you'll find a bunch of information about this. We've tried to kind of draw out our vision. You can read about it, and if you're interested, you can apply. And this is very plastic at this point. We're kind of expecting, we're learning as we go along as well, so we're really looking for feedback. Yeah, there you go. That's what it looks like. I think and you can see our list of like initial ambassadors there. And there's a handbook. It's very pretty with all the new branding. Okay. Next thing, 2 out of 3. Community forum. Now, as many of you will know, I and others spend a lot of time on Slack. And as I showed you earlier, Slack is kind of growing and growing, and it's fantastic. And there's some kind of niggling things where we think Slack is brilliant for a lot of stuff, but it would be great if we could kind of structure this a bit better, or if we could kind of share this or organize it in a bit of a better way. And so a new initiative that we've just launched is a new community forum. And this is a Seqera community forum which spans deliberately all of the different kind of tool chain that we have that we're increasingly growing. So there's a category in there for Nextflow, of course. There's also a category in there for multi-QC, which is great because we've never really had a good place for the multi-QC community. There's a category for Seqera Platform, formerly Tower, and Wave and Fusion, and so you can post any questions in there because many of the questions we see in Slack span many of these boundaries. So there's a real natural home for that. There's also kind of specialized categories such as events, so anyone can post any events there, and it automatically kind of builds this events calendar. And we really hope that this is a really kind of helpful, useful place for the community to gather. We're at 10,000 people now, and we hope that this forum, it's built with discourse, will help us scale to 50, 100,000. That's the hope. It's a really, really great thing, and offers a lot of functionality here. I love Slack, and Slack isn't going to go anywhere. So we're not going to close Slack down or anything like this. We expect the two to coexist. They serve a slightly different purpose, but certainly for people out there who have a question, want it to get answered, we hope that the community forum will provide that really good structured format for that. And then kind of more discussion type things can remain on Slack, and we keep that community feeling absolutely. It's open now, community.seqera.io. You can go and check it out. One of the things that is the most important thing for me really is you can check it out without logging in. There's no invite code, which expires. There's no password, there's no paywall, nothing like that. You can just browse the whole forum. Google can browse that whole forum. So if you type, well, I hope as the kind of library of questions and answers grows here, you can type your random Nextflow error message in and you'll start getting answers from a community forum. So it's a really big shift in that sense. And of course, if you log in with Google or GitHub or anything, you can kind of post questions and all the normal things. So there's a blog post we just pushed out about this as well, which goes into more detail about our motivations and why we're excited about this. So you can have a read of that. And please pop on and pop some questions in. There's a random category. You can post about anything. You can put cat GIFs. there's a Giphy plugin. So get involved and we'll see you there. Final announcement. This one's a person. Many of you at the hackathon will have met her over the past few days, but this will be news to others. I'm really excited to welcome Geraldine onto our team at Seqera, the community team. She's a bit of a legend in the bioinformatics community. We've been moving in similar circles for many years, and she's very well known, especially for her work with GATK, setting up the community and the forums around GATK, especially in the early days, and more recently with Whittle and with Terraform. She literally wrote the book on genomics in the cloud. And she's going to really bolster our presence in the US. So she lives in Boston, and will remain there and be hopefully a bit more available to go to events and things in the States. So she's the new Seqera lead developer advocate, which has been my job title for the last year and a half. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm still moving at Seqera. I'm just kind of taking a bit of a horizontal step over to work a bit more directly involved with product management. So I'm going to be working a bit more with the roadmap and directions of Nextflow, MultiQC, Wave and Fusion, and of course still very much embedded in the community. So I'd like you all to kind of join me in welcoming Geraldine to our community. We've really thrown her in the deep end because her first day was on Monday. By Tuesday, I had her recording podcasts with people. So, you know, really, really getting stuck in straight away. So I'm really excited to see what we can do together. Right, with that, I will wrap up and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Okay, we've got a lot. We've got a lot to talk about. Kind of start off, and I think there's a question around, what do you see the difference in terms of the driver between the pipelines which are released and then all of the pipelines which are in development? Is there like some kind of bottleneck? Is there things that we can do as a community to really help drive those pipelines going from starting in development into release?
I mean, at the end of the day, NF Core is, and I hope basically always will be, a volunteer community. People build pipelines because they need them. People build pipelines because they enjoy building pipelines. So pipelines take time, some more than others. And it's kind of a natural thing that there are often many pipelines kind of in development before the first release. Things we can do to sort of help move things along quickly, the bottlenecks that we've always hit is kind of the very starting point of getting through the initial kind of hurdles of agreeing that yes, this is a good pipeline. We've put some processes in place to help that. And the other one is always the first release, where we have quite stringent review controls, which I think are really important. It's kind of like when you publish a paper, you have peer review. It's the same with NF Core pipelines. When you do the first release, we say, okay, other people have to go and run your pipeline, and it has to work. Things like the AWS megatests and the CI testing we're building up, which runs all the pipelines on other infrastructure, which is not people's home infrastructure, definitely helps inspire confidence. So things like that we're hoping can improve the run-through. But at the end of the day, it's really kind of due to, I mean, we're victims of our own success that lots of people want to build new pipelines. But we just have to do our best to encourage and collaborate.
Next question is around how do you think about chaining those pipelines together? I mean, we saw before we had pipelines, submodules. It feels like there needs to be a layer above that. And how does NF Core think about that?
Good question. Cool. I've had this question since 2018. It's an old one, and it's a very valid one still today. Yeah, it's not an easy problem. There's a bunch of stuff we're doing about it, though. Those of you at the hackathon will have heard Ben stand up at the end of the day and talk about some of the provenance plugins that we have, which are now taking all of the internal metadata that Nextflow knows about the processes and the tasks that have run, the inputs and the outputs, and reporting on that into a standardized file format. So that's one approach which is being actively investigated, is producing provenance reporting and then being able to launch other pipelines from that. Also, I've spent some time talking to Ben and Paolo about how we can sort of encapsulate all the logic about inputs and outputs into pipelines so we can chain them better. It's something we're definitely going to be talking about a lot more next year, I imagine. So I hope that this time next year I can stand here and talk triumphantly about how it's dead easy to do now. We're definitely moving in the right direction.
And then on the ambassador program, we've got some comments around how people should automatically be added to that. Do you want to give a little bit of a little more commentary on exactly kind of what we're looking for there and how people can join it?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll start with the second bit because that's easy. How you join is you go to the ambassadors page on the Nextflow website, which just launched, and you read everything, you just decide if you do want to do it, and there's a button, and you fill in a form. So that bit's easy. The kinds of things we're looking for is just basically kind of activity in the community. I mean, the first group of people we've invited, we've just written a blog post as well where three of our new ambassadors, we've kind of talked a little bit about the kinds of things they're doing. Abhinav, Priyanka, and Robert Petit, I think. And they're doing things like running local training courses, running local events, writing content, writing documentation, answering lots of people on Slack. We don't have we've tried not to make it very strict about what we're looking for because it's a new program and we want to hear from everyone else about what fits. But basically, I see it not so much as like a recruitment thing, but more of like a support program. Like people out there who want to do stuff along these lines, we want to do everything we can to help you.
You'll be happy to know that the streaming has been back on for a little while. So. Awesome. Thanks so much, Phil.